Hi, my name is Claire Tryon. I'm the Planning and Education Coordinator for the State Historic Preservation Office. And the next topic is going to be creative partnerships. So kind of building off of Caroline's presentation, we thought it would be helpful to talk about some of the community outreach and engagement projects currently happening within the state. Our other panelists today are Molly Mersman. Molly, if you want to say hi real quick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Mersman. I'm a Civil War historian at Marshall University and excited to be here with you all.
And then Bob Johnson.
Good morning, all. I chair the Nicholas County Historic Landmark Commission, among other things.
And then we have Amy also joining us from Nicholas County.
Yes, hello, I'm with Bob.
So Molly and I are going to start out. She has the really interesting bit. I'll just be talking about a project we recently did with one of her classes from our end. So SHPO recently went through the process of reevaluating our long-term goals, both for our institution and for the state of West Virginia, one of which is to engage West Virginians with their history and provide opportunities for them to learn about their shared heritage. Within this, we're hoping to provide the public with different kinds of opportunities and resources to recognize and understand the value of these resources. And so we were looking at different groups that we wanted to engage. And one that kind of sort of naturally came up were the state's universities. So far, we've partnered with 3. Shepherd University, we did a presentation for WVU. We've worked with a couple of times, mainly their graduate program, and then Marshall. We started working with the Marshall History Department back in the fall of 2023. Cody Straley, our National Register Coordinator, and I met with Molly and some of her colleagues virtually to discuss some of our goals for collaboration and possible projects. Some of the ideas that came up were, having a lecture on different pathways different paths you can pursue with a history degree, how to build GIS maps, and then working on National Register nominations. Unfortunately, between that conversation, we all got really excited, but some time lapsed and we didn't reconnect until late January, early February of 2024. I mentioned that to say collaboration programs don't happen right away. Making these connections takes a lot of time and follow-up. So even though we were having discussions in the fall of 2023, the class that we worked with didn't take place until a whole year later. And thankfully, we had Molly who took the time to work SHPO into the syllabus for her class, Huntington, West Virginia Community Identity, which she taught with Dr. Cicero Fain. And it was a course that explored the history of Huntington through the lens of public history. And so with us, they completed an architectural survey. Cody, Jess, and I worked to pick the project area for the students, which ended up being the Ritter Park, the neighborhood surrounding Ritter Park. And Cody, if you would give them a brief 1 or 2 sentence description of the neighborhood.
I don't know, it's gonna be caught on the spot. So it's basically I want to say upper to upper middle class neighborhood surrounding Huntington City Park. Most of the homes were developed in between the 1900s, 1920s. So very big, nice, posh houses, some colonial revivals, neoclassicals, very fancy homes, very good condition. And the district was listed on the National Register back in the early 1990s. So it was kind of outdated. We just wanted to have a better idea of like what the district looked like today, and did any changes need to be made? Does it need updated at all to reflect any detrimental alterations to any property since the early 1990s? So that's what the project mainly focused on.
Thank you, Cody.
Mhm.
So once we picked that, we presented it to Molly. She worked it into the syllabus. The next step was for Jess to visit Marshall University and speak with students on how to successfully complete our historic property inventory forms, which was the first step in the survey process. Then a couple of days later, Jess and Cody took a field trip with the class to Ritter Park and demonstrated to them what they needed to look for when evaluating and documenting these structures, such as what features on the houses they should be looking at and how to properly take photographs of properties. Then throughout the rest of the semester, SHPO's role was primarily providing technical assistance to students. Cody, Jess, and I worked with Molly to help her through any questions she had about completing HPIs, and then the students worked together to create a final survey report. And then they presented that to us at the end of the semester, which was really cool. Jess was such an important part of this project. They reviewed and commented on all the HPI forms. And now I'll turn it over to Molly. That's all I have. So sorry.
Sweet, that's wonderful. Do you mind if I share my screen? How do I do that?
Sharing the screen is the little arrow in the box. I think you should be able to do it.
Okay. Controls, okay. Where exactly is this? Sorry, guys.
So at the bottom of your screen,
Mhm.
you'll see the different controls, and the one for sharing the screen is a box with an upwards arrow. It's in between the, yeah.
Brilliant.
It's sneaky. And if you have, do you have a PowerPoint presentation? Oh, you got it. Okay, never mind. Perfect.
Can you all see it?
We can.
All right, let's do that. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
All right, we'll go through it this way. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you really to Claire, Cody, and Jessica for working with us on this. When I came to Marshall a few years ago, I did not know, they wanted something to do with more public facing history, but they didn't know exactly what that was. And I came in very eager, as new people are, to help with that. And we essentially, our goal is to get students understanding that they can do much more than history than teach. We normally ask our students at the very beginning, what do you think you can do with a history degree? And all they say is teach, or go on to further education so that you can become a professor and teach. And we wanted to give them various other options. And we wanted to do that in a way that the students would find interesting. And so we started a public history committee. And within that public history committee here at Marshall, we started crafting this course. It's what you see here. This is really the first page of the syllabus, Huntington, West Virginia, Community and Identity. And it was between myself and Dr. Cicero Fain. He brought the history side of it. He would tell us about the history of Huntington, West Virginia, Appalachia, and I brought the intro to public history side of it. So we went through collections, museums, exhibits, the challenges thereof, and we tried to meld the two together, essentially trying to get the students to understand the practices, the methodologies of public history, and then put it into work in our own backyard, our own neighborhood. And we did that with, I mean, Cody and Jessica and Claire were just instrumental in this. And like Claire mentioned, we had talked about doing a relationship, you know, a year before this even materialized. And it was just nice to have that on our shelf so that when we did start having conversations about what is this course going to look like, we could actually pick that off the shelf and run with it. And they were so willing to run with us for this, because this class was a lot of different things, right? It's intro to public history, it's teaching them the history of Huntington, but it's also getting them to do a big project like a historic property inventory and then the Ritter Park survey report. I wanted to make sure that they could have their name on something by the end of this, not just an essay or a paper that they give to me at the end of the term, but something that they could say, you know, we not only turned this in for class credit, but also turned this into to SHPO, essentially, for them to evaluate and use. So it gave the students some, you know, some understanding that there's weight to this beyond just the class. And it was really cool for many of them because they can now put it on their resumes or their CVs. Many of these students have come to me after this class saying that they are trying to incorporate that into, you know, how do they go to public history museum studies for a master's degree? And they were using that as part of their cover letter, that they've already did this and this is already a piece of work that they could submit. And so, as Claire mentioned, we got together very early on and talked about this, and they walked me through everything. I did not know any of this background, and so this was me learning on the fly. I barely knew what an HPI was. I barely knew what a report survey was at all. And they all took the time to walk me through it. And they really helped me put it into like the course syllabus and the class assignments. They helped me to figure out how to structure it, how to tell my students what to do, given the fact that I'm new to this too. So they helped walk me through the guidelines of what they expected the students to do and whereby what I expected the students to do. They came, as Claire said, and they talked to my class. Both Cody and Jessica talked to the classes. They fielded all of their questions that they had, and they were even so kind to let us borrow their PowerPoints so that my students could have their PowerPoints forever and eternity through the semester. And especially when they were completing the HPIs, when they were completing the report surveys, I was always like, you've got to refer back to the PowerPoints. That's where the meat is. That's where the answers are. So this is just one example that I took. This is from one of my students, Elizabeth Byers, who did it was a really, really good HPI. And they all would go through me. First, I would do an initial edit to their HPIs just to make sure on the surface they're not forgetting anything obvious that they could have found. A lot of the issues that I had were what I wanted them to have with it. I wanted them to, you know, hunt and peck on the GIS map. And it did take a smidge of encouragement to be like, no, we did already go over this, but you've got to look for yourself. So that's always the fun part. But we got them re-edited and I sent them all to Claire and Cody, and to Claire, Cody, and Jessica, and they all went through them meticulously and told me, you know, what the students could do in the future. I did ask them, I was like, do you want me to like tell the students to go back and make these changes? And it was funny. I think maybe it was Jessica who said it. She was like, oh no, these are better than what we get on a regular basis. So I was like, oh, well, that's comforting. So that was really, really cool. And the second part was really neat too, the survey report, because their HPIs fed into this larger report. Cody and Claire were awesome, and Jessica, in helping me break down what student was going to get what part in this survey report. I didn't know, I've never worked again with a survey report, so I didn't know how many students for each section of the survey report, what should I be expecting? So they walked me through that. And we talked about the students doing research. And then finally, I wanted them to get to Charleston. I wanted them to get to the capital city. I wanted them to get to SHPO and actually meet who they've, really been working with and in that environment. So we had them do a presentation as their big capstone project at the end. And you don't have a picture of me there, but I was like beaming the entire time because they really stepped up to the plate when it came to this project. So we've had a lot of success, and the students have given great feedback afterwards. They love that their name is now attached to something that, is part of SHPO and something that they can put on a resume. Again, I've had multiple students emailing me, asking me if I could write them recommendation letters, talking about what they did for SHPO for these master's degrees. And this also opens up other opportunities that we can do. I know Claire Cody and Jessica and I've already started talking about what we could do as a different project in the future, whether it might be something to do with the Green Book sites in West Virginia, in the Huntington area, or simply we're looking for ways to collaborate on internships and sending interns up to Charleston to help them out. So this has been an extremely rewarding experience for me personally, but also for my students. They have had nothing but good things to say about SHPO, about the project, and really what it means for their future and what they can do with a history degree just besides teaching. Their windows are far more open than they were at the beginning of the class. So with this, just want to say thank you to Claire, Cody, and Jessica. You guys were nothing but amazing in not just helping the students, but helping me, being there when I had thousands of questions, which I did because I've never done this before. So it's just a really great basis for what we can do in the future, and I'm hopeful for that. So thank you guys for having me.
All right. Thank you, Molly. We'll now pass it over to Bob.
Good morning, everyone. For the first segment of our presentation, I'll introduce Amy Walker. Is, among other things, our county 4-H extension agent. I've been with WVU Extension Service for many years. Amy is also a member of our local Parks and Recreation Commission that manages Nicholas County Veterans Memorial Park. So I'll turn it to Amy to answer the query how the Rock the Landmarks project got started.
Thank you, Bob. So yes, as Bob said, I am obviously the 4-H agent in Nicholas County. So as that role, I get a position on our Parks Board, which is where we hold our camps at the Nicholas County Veterans Memorial Park. So I visit the park a lot. And I'm going to see here if I can do the same screen share, maybe, just to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. Oh, it won't let me share my screen. Maybe I have to have this over here.
Amy, if you give me a second, I'll change the controls for that.
It may have been, I have two screens, so it may have also been that because I had it on the other screen, that it was not allowing that. You guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Excellent. So that is our park. And if you see the 6 structures that are all in a line, those are our cabins. And right in front of our cabins are 22 boulders, and they're about 2 foot by 2 foot boulders, and they're just plain, they're just sitting there, they're not doing anything. So I've seen on Facebook a lot this gentleman that does chalk drawings just using whatever sidewalk something is there, it's a drain pipe or something like that, and he draws a really cute creature, incorporating that into his drawing. So one day while I was at the park and I saw these rocks, I was like, if you're familiar with Summersville area, the Powell Mountain goat. I love goats. I grew up with goats, obviously. So I was like, well, that would be pretty cool to utilize one of these rocks to draw the Powell Mountain goat on it using the formation of, one of these boulders. And they're just plain gray boulders that are just sitting there. They're just used basically as a barrier to keep the cars from going too far into the grass, in front, tearing it up in front of the cabins. So then it kind of just snowballed from there I have always loved history, grew up doing heritage crafts, all that kind of stuff. So what if we took those boulders and for historic landmarks or just historic places around Nicholas County, each of those boulders had a depiction of that location on it. Now, of course, this is a park. We have ball fields that are near it. Soccer plays out there. And of course, then we have some camps going on. So kids love to climb on those rocks. So the idea is to use the shape of the rocks for the pictures that would be painted on them, but also they would be smaller, like 8 by 5 inch. It wouldn't be the whole rock because it would get torn up and you'd lose that design. So with that, we get a lot of dog walkers, runners, all of those pieces that come and visit the park. So how do we also have them do kind of like there's the picture, but what does that picture mean for them? So expanding it into being able to have like QR codes or signage or something that explains that location. And then I love doing the waterfall trails, collecting those that the Department of Tourism does. So maybe doing something similar to that, where if they could take a picture of the rock and then they have the information about where it's located and then go out in Nicholas County and find that location, visit it, take a picture, and would be able to, get points up, to receive something, stickers, patches, kind of like the waterfall challenge that goes on. So that's basically where the idea of Rock the Landmarks came from, is that we have 22 blank canvases of boulders at this county park that a lot of people visit. And so let's not only spruce them up, but let people be able to know about how much history we have in Nicholas County.
And Amy came before the Nicholas County Historic Landmark Commission to present this idea. We meet monthly on the third Thursday, and all of my members were absolutely intrigued by the process. Something to address an otherwise ugly boulder used as a vehicle barrier. So Amy was invited back several times thereafter so that we could flesh out the process. The 22 boulders will be representing, landmarks in Nicholas County. And so Amy engaged our commission to verify locations of those 22 spots.
So yeah, so again, it's 22 spots. So I, of course, went to the register first to see what we already had in the county that was on the register. And then some of that was there were 16 sites on the register. So of course we needed 22. So what other sites do we know of around the county that would be good to educate the public about, be it, local visitors or out of state visitors, out of county visitors. And then also the other qualification we want to make sure is are the sites accessible? So we wanted to make sure that, yes, it may be on the register or maybe something that they should really learn about for history of the county, but it's not something that really is public accessible. So we really would try and steer away from that if we could, because we wanted to make sure, especially if we move forward with this, where we would kind of do the treasure hunt and they get awards with, participating and taking selfies with the locations. We want to make sure that they're able to do that, to access it and get to it. So I also checked with Clio to see what listings were on Clio. We actually only had 8 listings on Clio, and then I kind of looked through those, and we know that we need to make some edits to some of those listings, because like for our courthouse that's on the registry, it says that our Veterans Memorial Park is at the courthouse and it's a completely different location. So we know we have some edits there to do that. So yeah, so right now with our kind of development is locking in those 22 sites that we want to focus on being able to put on those rocks.
And due in great part to our somewhat inclement weather this year, we unfortunately had to cancel both the January and the February meetings of our commission. But next on the list is verification and feedback to Amy to nail down those 22 locations for her to pursue in Clio and in other media.
Yes, and we had in our December meeting, I shouldn't say ours, but in the December meeting I participated in with landmark commissions, we met up at Old Main, which is on the register, which would be, hopefully one of the rock pictures. And they were talking about how they were partnering with the high school to do a docent program with high school students. So we talked about how we could partner with them because of course I work with kids with 4-H. So I really would love to get some 4-H, or not just 4-H, but some youth involved into this project somehow, and really utilizing them mostly with that. If a site does not have a registry listing, that we need to write something up and have that history on it, so that when people visit, they can read about the history and why this is an important site that we've chosen. And so that's where we would be able to incorporate partnering with Old Main Foundation to bring in those docents when they don't have it, when they're not busy. It's not busy at that time that they're up at the Old Main, that they could take a few minutes and do some research on a site, or just in general, we could have high school students coming in and working with the Landmark Commission and the Historical Society and doing some of the research on those sites to be able to beef up the Clio listings or create the Clio listings. And then we would go from there to figure out how we wanted to do the QR codes and how we wanted to house the information for the public to be able to view it and see.
And part of our process, of course, is to expand the collaborations that were discussed in the last major presentation. And the use of youth docents at one location has spurred in our mind's eye of engaging students to assist with nominations to the National Register for properties in Nicholas County. And we see that as the sky's the limit to involve youth in the preservation activities that are so important to our history and culture. Thank you, Claire, for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for being here today, Bob. That sounds so cool, and I'm excited to see the end product. Does anybody, it looks like Molly had to go, but does anybody have questions for Amy or Bob? Or anything you're excited about within your communities that you'd like to share?
Well, I have a question for you guys. What are some of the ways that you're hoping to continue this partnership? Do you have anything else on the horizon?
Well, I mean, I bother Amy all the time for lots of things. I attend the 4-H volunteer meetings, usually monthly. So we're always swapping notes and ideas. I don't see that ending anytime soon. And in fact, Amy mentioned the meeting at Old Main, which is being renamed Old Main Arts and Heritage Center. It will become a performance venue, but they also have museum space in several former classrooms of old Nicholas County High, built in 1913. As chair of Appalachian Forest National Heritage Area, we too have a museum at the Darden Mill in Elkins, and we're going to use Old Main's methods to organize, train, and establish youth docents for our building tours.
So through 4-H, real quick, we have the Know Your State project book. So that covers all of the state history. So from this project with the Rock the Landmarks, I would like to develop a supplement to that that is specific to Nicholas County that I can not only go into the schools with and use it, but as a project book, it's something that my 4-Hers in the county can have that supplement, do the project book, and be able to exhibit at the county fair and have the potential to have that go on to the state fair as well. So that's how we'll hopefully continue utilizing the history of Nicholas County by having that supplement for that project book.
That's great. As a former 4-Her myself for many, many years, not in West Virginia, sadly, but you know, we always did really great projects like that were just so meaningful for us and for our community. So it's so great to hear. Good deal.